Alliance for the Brave, a program that advocates for our active military, veterans, and first responders. Presented by Gear Services Web Design. Alliance for the Brave, serving and empowering those who serve our great country in the line of duty. Tune in, join in, and plug in with us around the globe. Welcome to Alliance for the Brave.
In the air everywhere across America, you're listening to Alliance for the Brave, where we bring education, information, and communication to today's veterans, active duty military, first responders, those who are so important on the front lines, and American patriots who'll join us. I'm Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy veteran, certified senior advisor. Joining me, my co-host and partner, the great, the one and only, boom, boom, Lyndon Mason.
What's going on, Jim? Good morning.
Hey, you know, you guys in the Army, you have a great yell.
Hey, watch that.
Yeah.
You're on the boat, not on land.
Yeah. I mean, you know, don't go near the water. Hey, man. We've got a beautiful, beautiful lady joining us today.
Yes,
broadcast journalist, true professional, so we don't have to worry about the conversation today, as we were talking about before.
Yeah.
This is going to be exciting because she was brought to us, I believe, by your wife.
Yes.
And one of the things that's interesting is I started doing research on her organization. This is kind of like one of the best kept secrets in the country. I never heard of it before.
Yeah.
And wow, I want to introduce you to Ericka English with Volunteers of America. Ericka, good morning and welcome aboard.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. You know, I'm a social introvert, so I hope I can keep up with you guys.
Oh, no.
I believe you will. She can keep us in line, Jim.
I think so. Well, you were a news anchor down in the Houston Beaumont area, so you had an exciting start to your career.
I did. I started doing the news about in 2005. And I did the morning show at KBTV4. The station is now sold, but it was the Fox affiliate down there for some time.
Oh, I bet that's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can just imagine, but I never would have broken into TV because I got a face for radio. That's for sure.
No. That's not true.
Okay, tell us about Volunteers of America. I never heard of it before, and I've been just absolutely reading everything I can, and I'm like, holy cow, where have these guys been?
Well, we've been around for 125 years, so we are the best kept secret in human service work. We are a faith-based organization and ministry of service, and we provide a lot of needed resources to the vulnerable population in our country.
You know, Ericka, as I was reading, I found a parallel. I said, wait a minute, this feels like and sounds like Salvation Army. And you were like, let me tell you about that.
Interestingly enough, the founders of Volunteers of America, Ballington Booth is the son of the founder of the Salvation Army. And how VOA began is the Salvation Army was doing some human service work here in America, and they had a group of volunteers. They raised a lot of money, and ultimately the family wanted those resources to go overseas. And so Ballington Booth and his wife wanted the resources to stay here, and so Volunteers of America was formed.
Oh wow! And Ericka, how many veterans and volunteers do you guys have that come to your program?
So volunteers nationally, we host about 60,000 volunteers nationwide. Here in the Texas area, it's more about 1,800 volunteers a year.
Okay, that is amazing. So you are based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Yes, we are based here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have programming all throughout Texas, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, of course, down in the Valley.
That's amazing. Again, we didn't know about it. So if you want to know more about Volunteers of America, go to their website, Volunteers of America, and then you can find out about Texas by adding the word Texas to it, correct?
That's right. Our website here locally is VOATX.org, but certainly if you go to our national website, VOA.org, you can select Get Help, and it'll take you to the affiliate that's closest to you.
Now, I love the fact that you're talking about lifting people up, that you're talking about being able to change people's lives. So tell me about some of the ministry that you do that is helping people.
We we do have services for seniors and veterans, of course, people who are seeking recovery and treatment from substance abuse, as well as community reentry and helping people get reintegrated into society from being in prison.
Now, I noticed that there's a lot of employment opportunities and a lot of employment. So Volunteers of America is not manned by volunteers. You're actually employees, but you do have a lot of volunteers.
That is correct.
Yeah, let us explain that.
So here in Texas, we have over 330 staff members. These are paid professionals. In some cases, they are licensed professional counselors. We are degreed professionals. Therefore, but we can't do what we do without the people who volunteer and donate their precious resource of time, right? And so we do rely on them heavily to be able to provide the services to our community.
Now, Ericka, you've got some major corporate sponsors who are also involved in your job placement. I figured that out by looking at your website.
The reading is fundamental. I'm glad you. But no, yeah.
Well, I got to do something at 5:30 in the morning. Let me tell you.
We do. We have a lot of partnerships with. So VOATX Bank is a partner of ours, and as you read, Bank of America, we do a lot of work with them for our Financial Opportunity Center. And most of those types of program is down in Houston, but we do have our homeless veterans reintegration program that serves the Dallas-Fort Worth area as well as in Houston. And they come in and it's teaching financial literacy to our veterans. It's helping them get back on their feet. It's helping them become homeowners and be able to support their families.
One of the things I taught financial literacy to veterans in the Veterans Court up in Denton. I was amazed how much ignorance there is about financial literacy, especially with all the credit cards that they get inundated and they don't really understand how to use them. I mean, this sounds crazy, but so many of the people that I ran into, and then I deal with seniors in helping them, same problem. They can't manage their money. And if you can't manage your money will manage you. And the next thing you know, you're in all kinds of debt problems, and that can escalate, and that is one of the reasons some people go homeless.
Well, think about it like this. When you are recruited to be in the armed forces and you're 18 years old, and it's kind of almost equivalent to being drafted into a professional, sports arena. I'm sure, I'm not a veteran, I've never been in the military, but I'm pretty sure that they've trained you guys to have some type of wherewithal about the world, right? But a person going into a professional professional football
sports,
or
etc.
Yeah, exactly. Program, they may not have that opportunity. But you get them, they make a lot of money and then they lose it eventually. But some of the circumstances that we see with our clients is not necessarily that. It's more they're falling on hard times. I told you about the guy that we serve here in Dallas Fort Worth named Quentin. COVID-19 happened. He had a really good job, but he lost it because of the pandemic. And even in that moment, we're able to come in and help them get back on their feet. And now we provide counseling services to veterans.
Oh, wow. That's a very interesting thing. I've never heard, Jim, an analogy so clear and how you connected what you guys do as far as, a young person coming into the military, experiencing life, losing everything, or losing something and then needing to regain it back. So that's awesome what you guys do.
When you lose a job, you lose more than just a paycheck. You lose an identity. And this threw a lot of the veterans in the Denton County Veteran Court into drug and alcohol abuse. And the next thing they know is they get busted. And Now they're standing before the judge. And fortunately, in most cities, we have veterans court that enables them to go through a recovery. And part of that recovery was learning financial literacy. But there's more than that. There's a lot of other things. In London, you teach and you work with veterans in counseling. A lot of times, though, veterans don't want to get that counseling. They don't want to admit they got a problem.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing. It has a lot to do with the experience that they have, and not necessarily trusting who they're talking to, and wanting to be able to open up to tell that story to them, because you have to be able to have some type of connection with that veteran to be able to get them to understand that they are able to talk with you about what they're doing.
Now, Ericka, one of the big things is you and I talked earlier that you do a lot of work in the jails, that you are sending teams into, for instance, the Dallas County jails and the women's jails. Explain a little bit about that and tell us about how that's doing and what that's enabling you guys to do.
So in our community reentry programs, we do have a program called Resolana, where we go inside the Dallas County Jail and we provide services to women in our Resolana pod. All of the ladies there are not required to be there. They've all volunteered to go through this rehabilitation program, and it's all to reduce recidivism in our community. They do parenting classes. We have meditation for them. We have yoga, and twice a year they will put on a program of original songs and poems that they perform for our donors. And it's a really good opportunity to hear the stories. A lot of the ladies in there are there because they've experienced some type of trauma in their life. And it's all about getting to the root cause of those issues so that we can reduce the recidivism.
Lack of hope.
Exactly.
When you are hopeless, you become helpless, then you can become a problem to yourself. And so Volunteers of America is a faith-based organization. I did not see any denomination, and you said, hey, we take everybody, regardless of faith, regardless of background, we take everybody and help them. That's huge.
Yeah, we are all inclusive. And a lot of our executives and senior leadership team members, myself included, are ministers. I was commissioned as a minister a year ago. And in some cases we do have ordained ministers on staff, but it's just to have that level of, of authority, not really authority, but just to be able to go in and really see a person and see what they're going through and empathize with them. That's how we're able to make such a difference. Kind
of like a mentor or leadership type role.
Exactly. We really pride ourselves on being a ministry of service.
That is huge. I mean, and so you're building up. One of the things that you've got, now we've talked about the prison type situation in the ministry. That's huge because you mentioned the recidivism rate. Years ago, I volunteered in a halfway house for children coming out of the Texas juvenile prison system. And most of the boys I had came from Giddings State School, which is the maximum security facility. What I found out was 87% of them ended up in the adult prison system. So as a result of not having programs like Volunteers of America has, they just went back to their old habits and beliefs and got themselves back in. So that's where I'm beginning to see and understand the counseling and the various things that you guys are doing to make sure that doesn't continue to happen. So I'll tell you what, we're going to come back and continue this conversation and talk about moral injury and other things, as well as housing and help for seniors. So this is Jim Blythe with London Mason, and we're joined with Ericka English from Volunteers of America. Look them up. You're going to be amazed. This is a secret we need to get out there and talk about. So thank you for joining us. Stay with us on Facebook. Stay with us. This is Alliance for the Brave, your education, information, and today a special place for you to find out how Volunteers of America is changing our communities. We'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. Now, Ericka, we're still live on Facebook, and I think our conversation is really going great. Beginning to tell people about this organization. And we talked about, for instance, the things for veterans, and we've talked about the things for prison. I think talking about senior housing and some of that is very important as well, because in my community that I work in the senior community, you got a lot of people that don't have any resources whatsoever. They don't have anywhere to go. In many cases, they don't have any family to help them.
That is absolutely right. And we do serve a lot of veterans in our senior housing as well.
Could you repeat for me how many volunteers you have? Because I missed it when I was listening.
Okay, we have here locally we have about 1,800 volunteers.
1,800.
Oh, wow.
Nationally, 60,000 volunteers.
Yeah.
Maybe 1,802, right, London?
Yeah.
Right.
So in terms of mental health counseling, what do you guys dive into? What do those mental health counselors talk about for those?
We were fortunate enough to be able to receive a grant through during the pandemic to provide mental health counseling. So it looks like case management, as well as finding them housing and rental assistance. Yeah. But it's about when our counselors speak to a client, they're not surface. You know, we're not just handling the issue that they come in with. By diving down and digging deep, we may find out that there are other issues going on.
Yeah.
And because of the variety of services that Volunteers of America offers, we're able to then really lift them up. You know, we call it a holistic approach to what we do.
Yeah, and I when I heard you say recidivism, I hadn't heard that since I was working at Transit Care. So a few years ago, that's when I was here in Dallas, because we were based in Dallas. That was one of the main issues that we were trying to reduce, is that recidivism. You know, these veterans or clients that are out here, you know, on drugs, addictions, whatever the case may be, trying to lower that down.
Well, let me tell you, when people get out of jail, in some cases, I don't think our system is set up to make them successful.
Yeah.
We fought really hard because a lot of the times when the ladies were being released from jail, they were released in the middle of the night. They were released without money. They're released without an ID. So what do you do at 2:00 in the morning?
Yeah.
Where do you go? You go back to the environment that led you into prison. So we worked really hard to change that. Shots fired. I didn't mean to do that.
No, I loved it, and I think it's a very true statement. Yeah. And this is part of the problem. When I got out of the military, besides being spit on and called a whole bunch of bad names because of Vietnam, there was nothing. You know, it was almost like, hey, don't let the gate hit you in the butt on the way out. Keep going. And I think this is one of the things, is because this is such a huge change of life. Military, prison, incarceration, there's some similar type of things going on. So tell you what, Facebook, thank you for being with us. Send us a note. Diane will give it to me. We're going to keep going. We'll be waiting just a second. When we get back on the air, you're watching Alliance for the Brave on Facebook.
You're listening to Alliance for the Brave, honoring, serving, and empowering those who serve our great country in the line of duty. Today's program is presented by Gear Services Web Design. Learn more about our mission and how you can plug in with us at allianceforthebrave.com. Now, back to the conversation.
Welcome back. You're on board with Jim and the wonderful, great London Mason. London, did you get to blow something up over the 4th of July?
No, I didn't, Jim, but I can give you an artillery land right now.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Hey, we're joined by the beautiful, actually news anchor, broadcast, but Volunteers of America. You're head of their communication department in North Texas, aren't you?
I am. I'm the director of marketing and communications.
Well, Ericka English, thank you for being on board and be a part of this craziness about veterans. But one of the big things that as I did the research on Veterans of America, Volunteers of America, you guys do so much with veterans, and you do so much with people that are incarcerated. There's some parallels, unfortunately, that they need help reintegrating into the world, into society. So you guys providing a lot of this counseling and help and mentorship and training. That's amazing. So people can go to Volunteers of America. What's the Texas?
It is VOATX.org.
That's amazing. And you told the story about Quentin. Why don't you tell the story about the homeless veteran then Houston, Joe, that would be a great person to talk about.
Right. So Joe Rivera is another veteran that came to our program during COVID-19. And he lost his job, of course, due to the pandemic. And he was seeking assistance from our Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program. And we provide them resources to find employment and be able to find safe, affordable housing. So we were really, really blessed to be able to help Joe. Now, just between us friends, I do have permission to share that Joe went through a very intensive crane operation training, and now he's making more money than he did before he lost his job. I mean, I wouldn't complain about $45 an hour. I mean, I don't know many people who would, right? So we are very blessed to be able to help him get back on his feet and be able to provide for his family.
I think that's incredible because one of the things, now let's go back just a second and restate, you have major corporate partners and donors. You mentioned VOATX Bank here in both Dallas and the Houston area. You mentioned Bank America. You've got other major corporation donors.
Home Depot is a huge supporter of our veterans programs.
Oh, yeah. You know, the Home Depot Foundation does work for veterans for free on their homes and provides the materials. I know because I've worked with them on that. I think that is incredible. So these corporations not only provide some financial assistance, but as I begin to look at your website, there are you have job placement with these things. It's not like everybody come on, let somebody find them a job. No, you've got actual corporations you're working with that are looking to hire.
Exactly. Well, and providing the training to land the job that can provide the gainful employment. You know, I have family members who've lost a job, due to the pandemic. And it's one thing people like, oh, well, restaurants are hiring. Yeah, restaurants may be hiring, but I can't put food on the table for my family on a salary, of a waitress. Right. So it's making sure they have gainful employment. We don't want them just to have a job. We want them to have a career. Yeah.
We had a lady on from Jacksonville, Florida, that's got an organization called Operation New Uniform. You guys ought to meet them because one of the things that they do is provide education and certification, and they have partners as well. And instead of getting a job, menial job, a starting job, you're talking about getting a job in customer service, or you're talking about a job in technology. You're talking about a job in, for instance, medical billing. We had a guy that trains veterans in medical billing, especially the medics that were in the military, because they understand all of the vernacular. So this is important. You're not just going to get to go, hey, by the way, Jimmy, go dig a ditch. No, we've got opportunities. So I'll tell you what, Ericka, when we come back, let's talk about that, but I mentioned also, I want to talk about moral injury. This is something relatively new that we're learning about. London, you're counseling people, trying to help them. This is something that we've talked about a lot, and it's not just women that have understood this, but it's part of what's leading to PTSD. It's part of what's leading to all kinds of withdrawal, social behaviors. I think it's important to talk about where people can go to get resources on this. So you're listening to Alliance for the Brave. We're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners. Thank you, Ericka English, for being on board and staying on board with us. London, thank you for being in here today. Yes, this is Alliance for the Brave.
services that you provide, and you may have said this earlier, but between men and women, how do they differ?
That's a good question. So
Men are from Mars and women
are from Venus.
Venus.
Just leave it right there so I can see your face.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help that.
Himself.
You know, and this program is being rebroadcast out in California, and so I mean, you know, we need to crack them up as well.
Well, speaking about that, the needs of women and men may be different in the way that they come to our organization. So treatment, so for support and recovery and treatment, the same services. For community reentry, we may, you know, it may be a little bit different. For instance, in Fort Worth, we have a program called Mothers and Infants Nurturing Together. Women who are in prison or jail and they learn that they are pregnant. A lot of times they don't know. There's an assessment and all kinds of tests that they have to take before they are booked or during the booking process, and a lot of them find out that they're expecting. And so we have a program where they can come to our facility and stay a few months before they give birth to kind of, you know, prepare and plan. And then they get to stay up to 3 months postpartum to be able to bond with their babies, breastfeed. They take parenting classes. Unfortunately, sometimes we have to provide separation classes to teach them, you know, how to deal with those emotions, and setting up a permanent place for the child to go while they finish their sentence. Right. So the services are a little bit different based on the circumstances.
It's very interesting.
Do some of these children get put up for adoption?
In some cases, they do. But in most cases, we're able to link them with a close family member. We had a baby that just left a couple of weeks ago whose mom was from Hawaii, and we thought that she would be able to take the child home back to the island. Circumstances didn't allow that, so she had to return to prison, and the child's father then came to pick up the baby and take her back to Hawaii.
That's great. You're being a faith-based organization, then you're really integrating the family, and probably a lot of what's going on is family training as well.
Oh, we have a strengthening families program through our prevention services, and that's a program that helps youth build up their self-esteem. We talk about negative peer pressure, and we bring the parents in so we can begin to have these conversations with our kids.
Now, Ericka, one of the things, Volunteers of America is national as well as it's local. You can look it up and find your local chapters, your local organizations. When we come back, we're going to be talking about, for instance, you've got a golf tournament coming up. Where can people go then to the national organization, find out about their local? Is there a list of the local organizations?
Yes, if you go to VOA.org and you select Get Involved, it'll take you to a drop down and you can put in your zip code and it'll show you the affiliate that's closest to you.
I think that's important because we are across the nation from Jacksonville and Norfolk all the way out to California and in between. So go to Volunteers of America, Facebook. If you're on Facebook, there is a Facebook sign for Volunteers of America, correct?
Yes, it's spelled out. Volunteers of America, Texas is the local.
All right. We're going to be back on the air in just a second. Stay with us. And thank you for being part of Alliance for the Brave on Facebook.
Today's program is brought to you by Gear Services Web Design. Visit us on Facebook or online at allianceforthebrave.com. And now back to Alliance for the Brave.
Well, welcome back. What a great day. We have an absolutely incredible guest today. London and I want you to meet Ericka English. She is so amazing. An ordained minister.
No, I'm commissioned, not ordained.
Commissioned. Oh, okay.
There's levels to this, Jim. I'm on the bottom.
Listen, Ericka, I need all the grace I can get. I need all the forgiveness I can get.
You and I both. Look, let's just...
Yeah, let me tell you, there was. I did get a chance, and I went to Dallas Theological Seminary for 3 semesters. I had to quit because I was actually doing this and couldn't work a full-time job and do this and do that as well. But I got to tell you, I love the idea of faith-based, and I know we would love to have you come back and be a regular on our program to talk about these things that are so integrally important in our community. One of them is, I was going through your website, was the moral injury, and there's a special program that you've got about that. This is something relatively new, right, London? A lot of people are not aware of this and the impact. I've always thought this was women, but it can impact men and really impact children and change their life.
Absolutely. Well, I'm curious to know why you think just women.
I think when you say moral injury, you automatically think of women who have been abused. Years and years ago, I had a friend of mine who was a psychologist tell me that 3 out of every 4 women in the United States had been abused sexually, mentally, physically, emotionally, to the point that Child Protective Services should have been called by the time they were 14. So when you say moral injury, that's what comes to mind. But what really is going on is there have been men who have been exposed to horrible situations, especially in combat and battle, within what's going on in the gang world, what's going on in our inner cities and communities, what's even going on in bullying. I don't know why this comes to, but I know I know bullying is not something new.
Right. So just to break it all down, moral injury is injury to a person's moral conscience. It's pretty much betraying your personal moral code. So just like you said, I think you were onto something, especially when you said combat veterans. You've done something possibly that was against your moral code. We're seeing it now, not just in veterans or people who've been in the military and served our country. We're seeing it now, nurses. Think about the pandemic. Just think about some of the things that they may have seen on a daily basis. Law enforcement officers, oh my goodness. So we're opening it up definitely to more people. And you're right on the money when you said victims of sexual assault. They've done something possibly to get out of that situation that may have been against their moral code. And I may digress a little bit, but I can remember a time back in my TV days, I was having this discussion with someone on the air about what a woman should do if she was ever in a situation that she was being raped.
Oh my God.
This person said she should just let it happen. I'm like, no, you fight no matter what you have to do. So she may have had to make a stand for herself that was against what she normally would have done. So
yeah, and I hate to say this, but I know of situations where it wasn't a woman that was being raped.
That's very true.
And that has such a huge, profound impact. But let's just talk about bullying, for instance, because I think that is a rape of the mentality of the predator that can have long-lasting effects on a child. I mean, a child in impressionable age, 6, 7, 8 years old, begins to take on a new persona. And this is something that they really need a lot of help. They need forgiveness. And one of the great people that join our program is Bruce and Tony Hebel with Forgiving Forward, which is the basis of the Christian religion. That getting over that kind of moral injury, whether it's bullying, and we talked about rape, we talked about other abuses. You know, I had some pretty bad bosses in my life as well. And let me tell you, I carried a grudge for some of those people for a long time.
And Jim, and Ericka, just to kind of, I'm thinking in doing this peer support work, now I'm starting to understand more about when you talk about moral injury. Now I understand why a lot of veterans are not apt to open up and tell their story. Because of some of the things that they've experienced that could be so intense that they don't want to share this, and to be able to understand that there is a moral injury program that will give them the opportunity to be able to share that is huge.
Right, in a safe space. I mean,
Yeah.
when Jim was talking about bullying, we put on this armor of protection, and in doing so, we may hurt some of the people, that we love in doing that. But or you hurt other people to prevent getting hurt by people.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, let me tell you, hurting people hurt people.
Yeah, that's true.
And I got to tell you, I'm going to tell you a story, true story that happened to me when I was in junior high. This kid tried to block me going into a classroom, and I was a pretty strong kid, and I just pushed him out of the way. And he was taller than I was, and he's screaming in my face, "I'm going to meet you after school. I'm going to pound you into the ground, blah, 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 blah." So, and at the time I was in the band, so I had a trumpet case. I got my books. I walked out the front door, and man, there he was. And he comes up to me, and he's laughing, and "I'm going to beat you." He looked away. That was a bad mistake because my grandfather had taught me, take care of yourself. I flattened him.
Yeah.
And I offered not to let him get up off the ground.
Right.
Okay? He didn't bully me anymore. I don't think he bullied anybody. But you know what was really tragic? I found out later that he was a juvenile delinquent, but he had grown up in a very, very abusive family with a very, very abusive father. So he was taking that out on anybody and everybody he could.
Yeah.
And when I flattened him, it so shocked and surprised him and humiliated him. That didn't help him. No. That didn't help me. And I sure wasn't going to be his friend. But boy, let me tell you something. Hurting people hurt people. They make an intentional effort, and they hurt those closest to them.
We were talking about our community reentry services, and there's a guy, I'll just call him Mr. McMillan. I had the pleasure of sitting down with him for a couple of hours last month, and he was telling me his story. While we were helping him reintegrate back into society, in some of his assessment, we found out that he was a veteran. The reason why he was in and out of the system so much, he had this trauma that he had experienced while he was serving our country. It was something that happened, off hours. But nonetheless, he left the military. He was discharged, and then in and out of trouble here at home. So he got involved with gangs. He got involved with drugs and alcohol, and he and came to our program before he was able to go home, for full time. But because we knew his history, because our staff members were very good at what they do and digging deep to find the cause, the root source of those issues, they found out that he was a veteran. They found out what happened. We were able to link him with our HVRP program, Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program, and helped him find gainful employment again and find a safe, affordable place to live. So that's another story where they may come to us for one thing, but they go through the program and they leave, graduating from a completely different program.
And one of the things, too, now let's change because we're going to be running out of time for too long. You guys have housing for seniors as well as housing for disabled, for handicapped. Tell us a little bit about that, please, Ericka.
Throughout the nation, housing is one of the primary programs that we have. It is the programs that we get to reach the most people and help the most people. So we have programming or housing apartments throughout the state of Texas, of course, and we have several here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In a lot of cases, our veterans reside at those facilities as well. But it's independent housing. It's the opportunity to give someone the chance to live independently. And the same with our intellectual disabilities programs. These are people with developmental disabilities that live in our group homes. They're not in an institution. They're not, in a hospital somewhere. They're able to live life on their own. And in some cases, they have jobs. They're earning money. And it's that sense of pride that makes them, really feel good about themselves and finding value in who they are.
I think that's incredible. Ericka, you got a major event coming up because you guys are a 501c3. You have major corporate donors. Tell me a little bit about the event coming up and how can people plug in and can they join in?
Sure, absolutely. We have our annual golf tournament coming up at Las Colinas Country Club on Monday, September 13th. We have a shotgun start at 8 a.m. And for more information about that, you can visit VOATX.org. This is the 5th year that we've done it. Higginbotham is our title sponsor. They've been our title sponsor for 3 years now, so we're very grateful to have them on board.
How fun. I mean, you get to go play golf,
Oh, yeah.
but you also get to meet a lot of people with Volunteers of America, correct?
That's correct. We do have a lot of our sponsors and some of the vendors that we work with to come, and then they all get to meet each other and fellowship. I mean, it's a little competitive spirit, but I mean, you know, we get out there and have fun. It's a scramble, and there's opportunities to win some great prizes as well.
Really? So is there a luncheon or a dinner that goes along with it?
Usually we wouldn't have a luncheon, an awards luncheon that would take place afterwards, but because of our new COVID environment that we're in, lunch will be on the go, but we do have an opening program where they sit inside their golf carts, they eat their breakfast, we have a quick prayer, quick overview about the state of VOA, and then we send them on their way. And that rhymed. That was not meaning to rhyme.
Oh, goodness
was great.
gracious. My wife's going to
rhyme.
be in here because nobody loves to rhyme more than I do. And, hey, is that something that comes with the broadcast
Yeah.
business?
Right.
Yes, so you know, one of the things they tell us is to avoid cliches, but I think by telling us to avoid them, it makes you run to them, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you want what you can't have.
Yeah, without a doubt. You want what you can't have. I like that. I think a lot of people, though, are hearing this message for the first time because I didn't know anything about Volunteers of America. What an amazing organization. And again, let's give out that website and how people can connect. Also, where people can donate on that website as well that I saw. This is something we need. This is something that lifts up the community. This is something that takes those who are in the worst possible situation and lifts them up. I like that. And it's faith-based.
Right.
Non-denominational, non-judgmental, totally integrated in all stratas. This is a great organization. Ericka, tell the people how I can get to it.
Sure, you can visit VOATX.org. We serve more than 24,000 people every year, and it would just be our extreme pleasure to be able to uplift your loved ones or you if you're in the need of help.
Now, if you are a professional like London is probably, and I'm not joking, I have learned so much from London. He's never even counseled me. But as we've talked over hamburgers and things, I've learned a lot. Professionals like that who want to either volunteer or be part of it or maybe have a second career after they've retired and being a counselor or mentor, where would they go? How can they plug in there?
They can visit our website again, voatx.org, and if you click on About Us and scroll down to Job Opportunities, we have a number of job opportunities available at VOA Texas, and it is it's amazing to be able to mix your faith and your vocation. You don't get the opportunity to do that. You know, working in corporate America, even in broadcast TV, you know, you can't do that. And so I'm fortunate to wake up every single day and to really live the mission. It's so aligned with who I am, it doesn't even feel like work.
Isn't it amazing?
That's good.
One nation under God, but don't talk about it.
Yeah.
In God we trust, but don't talk about it. I got to tell you, whether your God is our God of Jesus, our God, the God of Allah, our God of whatever, I do believe there is a God, and I do believe that the absolute moral teachings that are there and available to us make us into better people and make us grow and go and be happy. Without it, undisciplined people, again, hurting people hurt people. So we're going to come back and finish up with Ericka English of Volunteers of America, talking about what wonderful things can be done to help the most disadvantaged in our community. London, we're going to be right back after these words. So I'm going to want you to give us a big hoorah.
All right. I'll do that.
Okay. Hey, thanks. We'll be right back.
Knows I haven't said boom, or he knows I haven't said it yet. That is good. You know what, Ericka? Here's the interesting thing about what you guys do. So I've talked with Jim many times about the struggles of us as veterans in communication and not knowing information to be able to do or connect with various organizations like Volunteers of America. This is one of the best programs to at least get you launched in the right direction, because you guys have so many entities within your program that are so key. You know, this moral injury and, you know, all of these things that we as veterans are really, we don't want to talk about this stuff, but we're able to confide in someone that can, at a faith-based program that's open, that says, you know what, hey, I don't care who you are, come on in here, share this story, get it out so we can help you out. And if we can't get you here, we can put you over here. You know what I mean? And you start one, like you said, and I've been listening, this is awesome. You start one place, and then a lot of times you'll end up in a lot better place going out the door, and that is just tremendously great.
Well, to your point, that's one of the reasons why we hire veterans as well.
Yeah.
Because we realize that we need to be able to establish some trust, not just, you know, with veterans, but with our other clients as well. And we practice what we preach. It's not just about supporting veterans and uplifting veterans. We give veterans jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're very similar, as we said, to Salvation Army. So do you have a band in uniforms?
We used to.
Oh, really?
We did. Okay, we used to have uniforms, and we used to also have the titles as well. You know, the colonel, general, colonel. We used to do all that stuff. It was very close aligned to the Salvation Army in its early stages.
I think that's fascinating. And especially what I love is the faith-based aspect of this, because if you don't have faith, you don't have hope, where are you going to go? It's not going to go well for you. And I got to tell you, moral injury, I didn't really understand it till I started reading a little bit about it. And you know how many men that I met who were in combat in Vietnam. I actually know several men who were super trained special forces, Navy SEALs, Marine Corps, Force Recon. And guess where they went? North Vietnam, doing reconnoitering and recon. And I got to tell you, some of those guys have come back and had some real problems. And we don't realize it. We don't understand it. They didn't understand it.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that true, London?
Oh yeah, it's just like the more modern deployments like Desert Storm, especially Desert Storm, but you got Iraq, you got Afghanistan, you got a lot of different things. When I think about this moral injury, the thing that I think about is the feeling of having to fight, possibly kill someone that I really don't want to kill. Right. You know.
Yeah, killing anybody is not a good thing. All right, we're going to be back on the air on broadcast in just a second. Thank you, Facebook, for being on board with us.
Listening to Alliance for the Brave, honoring, serving, and empowering those who serve our great country in the line of duty. Today's program is presented by Gear Services Web Design. Learn more about our mission and how you can plug in with us at allianceforthebrave.com. Now, back to the conversation.
Back aboard with us, and we're about to pull this into the dock and park it for this weekend. I got to tell you, it's a great opportunity. Ericka English, thank you for being on board. We're going to wrap up in just a second. I got to say a special thank you to Atoya for arranging this, London for you being on board, Diane doing the social media, Robin Valtudo, our executive director, and all she does, and all of those who join us on Facebook. I want to say a special thank you because you are part of Alliance for the Brave. So, Ericka, again, let's mention this upcoming event in Dallas-Fort Worth and where people can find out and join in.
Absolutely. Our 5th annual Shoot for a second chance golf tournament. Is happening Monday, September 13th. Shotgun start at 8 a.m. at Las Colinas Country Club in Irving.
Now, that's a beautiful place. So, Ericka, what would you say to a young person about a career or a start in becoming a volunteer as a part of your life, and how did it help you?
It has helped me even in my earlier years as a professional to have an outlet, and doing something for other people. It absolutely builds confidence to know that you're not only helping someone else, but you're doing something for the greater good.
Volunteers of America, let's quit making this a secret and get it out there.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, well, will you come back? Because I know that you bring so much class to this program. It's unbelievable. So I like that. You're making me look good.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I look forward to coming back.
Okay, I think that's great. Well, I like to close with a prayer, and we're getting down to that point. So I want to say again a special prayer and a special acknowledgement of a lot of what's going on. So, dear Father, we thank you for your hedge of protection, for being there for us, for our veterans as they come home and they reintegrate, for those coming out of the incarceration of the prison system. Guide them and direct them and help them to gain hope and trust and learn how to be a better person. Thank you for our active duty military, and Lord God, protect them as they go, especially those leaving some of the battlefronts of Afghanistan. That's got to be a tough, dangerous situation in Iraq as well. Thank you for our medical professionals and all they do in the front lines. And God, we thank you for those with our veterans hospitals and our hospitals across the nation. Thank you for protecting them. Thank you for protecting the first responders. And thank you for Volunteers of America. In Christ's name we pray. Ericka, thank you for being on board. A quick note. Dr. Holt, who's head of the North Texas VA, said, tell everybody to get a vaccination. If they need help and you're a veteran, go to the VA. Get a vaccination. It's important that we save lives. Don't believe some of the propaganda you've heard. It ain't that bad. You got a whole lot worse when you got your overseas shots.
Oh, yeah.
So hang in there with us. We'll be back next week with a great program. Thank you for being on board with Alliance for the Brave. Thank you for being part of it. Please send us a note. And thank you whether you're in Northern California or Jacksonville, Florida. And God bless you in Northern California with all the wildfires. We pray for you as well. So have a great, great day. Thank you again for being part of Alliance for the Brave. This is Jim Blythe, London Mason, and we have had a great chance to talk to Volunteers of America. Thank you for being on board with us. This is Alliance for the Brave.